Okay.
Welcome to Taking Charge of My Cancer podcast, episode 17. I am Derly Munoz, your host, and I have a great guest today that I'm very excited about it, Beth Leinder. So Beth is an account manager for Impedimed. She is a nurse as her background and has been working in the medical device industry for over 15 years in the breast health space. She worked in the operating room from 1984 to 2000, primarily with an ophthalmologist with some reconstructive and plastic surgeon as a surgical first assistant. Then she went and worked with the surgical oncologist as a research coordinator for approximately 5 years. As a coordinator, she just wanted to make sure that patients understand the purpose of the study and the risks and benefits of the study. Her past clinical experience in the OR as a coordinator was very helpful in providing support to the sales team, as well as providing support to the clinical team and providers that work with the patients. She's been with Impedimed for about a year and a half, and Impedimed has a desire to ensure no patient at risk of lymphedema gets untested. They may want to make sure that it's great progress. Also, they may making a great progress since she's been in Impedimed. And she's so proud to be as this goal of educating the providers like me and enable women to get tested. So Beth, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you being just sharing such a great value with us today.
Well, it's an honor, and I really appreciate you wanting me to be here and share with your audience. Thank you.
You're welcome. So you want to tell us how did you went from, clinical research to being with Impedimed?
Well, I have been in the breast health industry for about 15 years. And so as being a clinical research coordinator, you're kind of introduced to a lot of different technology. And it's one of those things that you're trying to change a standard of care. So at that time, when I was a research coordinator, I was actually measuring arms for a study to look for lymphedema, and I would measure that with a tape measure. So whenever I heard about this technology, ironically, from the physician I used to work for, he was telling me about how great this technology is, and I should check into it, and would I be willing to give him my resume so he could forward it along to the Impedimed folks. And it sounded really interesting, and I wanted to just check in with another physician as well, a surgeon as well, that I really respected a lot. So I called her. Actually, she was so sweet. She talked to me on a Sunday while she was having lunch, or making lunch, and she said, Beth, it's like your voice just softened when you talked about this product. And she said, I just feel like as a former nurse, you really see that there's some real worth to this product. And she's right. I thought, if this is something that we can prevent, if we can prevent lymphedema, and if I can do something, and this is going to change standard of care, I sign me up. So that's kind of how I got involved with the folks at Impedimed, and fortunately I'm working here now.
Okay. Do you want to explain a little bit? Because I'm sure a lot of folks out there have no idea what Impedimed is.
Sure.
Would you mind to just explain to them what that is?
Sure. Well, Impedimed is the name of the company, and the device is called SOZO. And what SOZO utilizes is technology. It's called bioimpedance spectroscopy. It's just a real non-invasive way of being able to measure the patient's total body water, extracellular fluid, intracellular fluid volumes. And then the data that we get from that test, bioimpedance spectroscopy, just really helps a clinician in being able to identify early detection or detect lymphedema earlier, helps them with that assessment of lymphedema. As you know, Durley, lymphedema is a condition that can cause swelling in the body, and that's just due to a buildup of this protein-rich fluid that's in the soft body tissues when the lymph system has been damaged or blocked. Secondary lymphedema is just most frequently caused by cancer or cancer treatment, such as surgery, radiation, or chemotherapy. And if it's left untreated, then it's a lifelong condition, and it's considered then chronic lymphedema. So that's what Impedimed does, is it has the product called SOZO, and the technology is bioimpedance spectroscopy. About 50% of cancer patients are at risk for lymphedema, and in 1 in 3 of those patients will develop lymphedema. So, the important thing is to identify it early enough. The thing I love about our technology, Durley, is that it can detect fluid changes in as low as 36 milliliters in a limb. And so that really gives us this really super early warning that something's going on with the patient. And we know there's well-established fact that early detection and early intervention in most all disease states results in a better outcome. So with this 36 milliliter alert, we can really detect it earlier and get on it and reduce that chance of that patient getting chronic lymphedema. So that's basically it in a nutshell. It's a 30-second test. It helps identify a problem before it's a problem. It's non-invasive. So
Perfect.
that's basically it.
A great explanation, and we'll talk more about it because I absolutely love it. We start doing here at UF Gainesville, we start doing a prospective surveillance program since we're going on maybe 8-9 years now.
Yeah.
And has been wonderful. Like the amount of patients that we be able to identify early on where they don't even notice anything goes on, and then us be able to jump in and avoid for anything to become worse or actually reverse it has been amazing. So it's great. Will you give us 3 value tips that you learn about your journey?
I think really just keeping an open mind. And that's how we change and we grow. Like I said, I've been a nurse for a long time. I started in 1979, and in that time, I have seen so many amazing changes in the medical and in healthcare. If you think about it, back in 1979, if a woman had breast cancer, she didn't have options that she has now. She would have a mastectomy. So if you think about where we were then and where we are now, that's because a lot of people had their mind open and they were willing to change and to grow. So I think that's a tip I try to pass on to anybody. I also just keep learning and learn from people who know more than you. And I always tell my grandkids this: be an expert at what you do. And that way you can help others, but it also helps you. It helps you in your own career. So try to be that expert and learn as much as you can about whatever you're doing.
Awesome. How about the most painful lesson that you have learned on your journey? I know it's so many because you've been there for so long, but maybe within your last maybe 5-10 years.
Just don't burn out. Burnout happens so easily, and I think it's just because we don't stop and take a breather. And I think if anything happened during COVID, it kind of forced everybody to stop for a while. And I think that was a valuable lesson for me because I was taking walks I wasn't taking before. And I was just thinking about that earlier today. You have to, it's like they say, pull, if in the event of emergency, oxygen will drop down and take in that deep breath. I think we need to do more of that. And so I think if I've learned anything, then, to avoid burnout, just take a deep breath and take care of self first.
Okay, perfect. And I think that's very valuable. All of our audience are one or the other way experiencing some kind of type of cancer, not necessarily breast, but any type of cancer, or is family as well that is dealing with the same situation. Like, with one person get affected, the whole family gets affected. So you're right. Sometimes we get so overwhelmed with every day, just kind of like if you just got diagnosed, the expectation was going to happen, the surgery, the other treatments like radiation, chemotherapy, that sometimes we forgot all these other things. So if just think about you just have to be part of the whole team. Is your decision. Don't let anybody else tell you what to do. Of course, we have the knowledge, but at the end of the day, is your body, your decision, and you're going to take care of your body as good as you can or not, right? So we can have some other patients who you tell them, you gotta be doing this testing, or you need to make sure you improve your body composition because that put you in a higher risk, and then just goes one year and comes the other. So it's just really at the end of the day, your decision. What can you do to empower yourself to can really fight this cancer, avoid for other recurrence, or really avoid, if we can, lymphedema, right? That's kind of the whole point of this. So excellent.
Yeah.
How about, is anything that you have that will be of value for our audience?
Um, yeah, I think I mean, kind of to echo what you just said, Durley. You know, I've been diagnosed with cancer myself, and you have this, it's like, you feel so blessed to be a survivor. And what can you do to take really good care of yourself emotionally, physically, do the things that, because it feels like sometimes you're on a journey all by yourself. There's nobody that can relate to what you're going through. So I think it's so important at this time just to take good care of yourself in every way that you can. Do the things that your mom taught you to do, eat right, you know, go out and play,
Yeah.
drink your water. That's like during COVID, I thought, okay, I want to do something that's playful. I haven't done it in a long time. And I used to twirl a baton. So I got a baton and I started twirling again.
That's awesome.
So just don't forget how to play,
Yeah. Okay, excellent. And then I know the next question is how can people find you, but you can tell us about it, but I will put a description on the podcast so people can get a hold of you. But you want to tell us a little quick how they can find you?
You're welcome to email me at bleinder@impedimed.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I don't do any of the other social things like Instagram or Facebook or anything like that, but I am on LinkedIn, and I think it's under Beth Leinder, not Elizabeth, but Beth.
Perfect. And like I said, I'll describe that on the podcast so people can find you. How about 3 books that you would recommend for the audience?
Yeah, I love to read. It's so crazy. I will pick up a book and then I couldn't tell you what I read the last time. But I love historical fiction, and I like it because it kind of keeps you engaged in the history by having a character to follow along that's, and it's not so dry. So, and I'm one of these people, I will reread a book. So 2 recent old books I read was Trinity by Leon Uris and Exodus. They were pretty good, but something that I love that I recommend to everybody is a book that was written by Viktor Frankl, and he was a survivor of Nazi death camp. He lost his parents, he lost his wife, who was actually pregnant, and he was later became a psychiatrist, and he has a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And his belief was that we can't avoid suffering, but we can choose how to cope with it, and we can find meaning in it, and we can move forward. And so I really think it's important to find a pursuit like he did. He believed that finding a pursuit of what you really find meaningful is going to provide that happiness. And I think that's so true. I love this book. It's probably like, it's less than an inch thick, but there's so much in that book. So if I could suggest that for anybody, again, I always go back to my grandkids. I'm like, read a book about maybe someone's struggle and how they overcame it. So
that's nice. That's very good. Excellent. Any other ones, or that's pretty much it?
I love music, and there's a musician I particularly adore named Sean Colvin. It's called Diamond in the Rough, and I love it. And I was able to meet her one day, but it's just a good book. It's entertaining and it's very interesting.
Okay, excellent. Very good. How about movies?
Well, I'm not much of a TV watcher until you get, again, COVID, bad habits. But if The Wizard of Oz is going to come on, I wish it would come on every single year like it did when we were kids, so we could run to the TV and watch it. I still love that movie. Also, I love this movie called It's Complicated. I've probably watched it 10 times.
Me too.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is a movie that I think most women my age especially should watch because it resonates. Durley, I was sitting next to this woman in the movie theater when I first saw it. There was like a chair between us, and you could tell she wasn't really happy that I was sort of in her space. But as the movies progressed and it got funnier, I was laughing so hard I was crying. I look over and she is laughing so hard she's crying, and I shared my napkin with her, and it was like we bonded. It was so funny, but it's such a good movie. But
Yes, do it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
How about podcast?
There's a podcast I really like a lot. I would recommend it to anybody who's trying to, it's on a wellness journey. It's called Lifespan by David Sinclair. I just started listening to it, and I will listen to it when I'm walking. It kind of helps motivate me to really take better care of myself. There's another one too called On Purpose, and the guy's name is Jay Shetty, Shetty. There's all kinds of great conversations from mental health to wellness, physical wellness. So I like that. And then I love to laugh. So there's a good one. Conan O'Brien has one. It's called Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. And he interviews a lot of really great guests, from comedians to musicians to politicians. So it's really good. It's entertaining and it's an informative podcast.
Awesome. Excellent. That was very good suggestions. Has been any one question that you wish I will have asked you and will you have answered it?
So I think that would be, what have I done in my career that I love the most?
Okay.
I loved being a nurse, and and sometimes I miss being a nurse, but I feel like with this job, it's about as close as I've been in industry to sort of feeling like I'm, providing some education and I'm providing that difference. I loved being a research coordinator. It gave me the time to really sit down and take that time with my patient and help them understand, a little bit about the study that they wanted to participate in. Breast cancer survivors and cancer survivors in general are very altruistic people. They want to help other people, and the willingness to participate in a study was, to me, it impressed me how women wanted to help other women. But I love the fact that when they would come to see me, it was usually after they were told that they were going to go for treatment, they were going to have radiation, blah, blah, blah. They were hit with all of this information, and it gave me the time to just have them sit down in a chair, take a deep breath, and were there any questions that I could answer for them. I love that. I miss that. I did some surgical mission work, and I did enjoy that quite a lot too.
Excellent. So now that you mentioned about great to sit down with these patients, as something that, we come across, or, we have an amazing program, and usually our breast surgeons see the patients, and within the first 2 weeks, they're here with us already for a pre-op measure. And so, yes, they are totally in shock because, I just have this cancer diagnosis, and the only thing that you can think of is like, man, I'm just going to die. Who's going to take care of my family, right? And then it's like, you just start to really sit down and try to explain to them, you may have this, and you may have this, and you may have that. But again, has been amazing to be able to sit down with them and answer some of the questions, I'm not a physician, I'm not pretend to be one, but certainly I've been working in this field for a little while, that I'm able to give them some tips and some other recommendations and clarification more about what they hear from the surgeons and the medical oncologists. So that has been wonderful. Like it's so nice to see when they walk out of here. It's such a release of still the anxiety and the fear, but to be able to have that role. And so it's not just like we're a PT for them. It is just really, we're kind of like their coach through their cancer journey. And I tell them that I say, we do a surveillance program for breast cancer patients. And so for 5 years, we're going to be the best friends. And still to the point that when I do the 4th year coming back, it's like, what has been going on in the last year? Or, or they notice this is happening. I want to see you before then. And absolutely. So it has been such a great experience. And you're right. I've been a PT for like 33 years, and I did ortho for a lot of, for a long time. and in oncology for the last 14 years. And that was one thing that totally, absolutely loved, was like seeing how patients with, I mean, it's just like their spirit, right? Like, you know, they go through all this stuff and they're like the best compliant patients in the world, you know, like they're so willing to do things. They're so willing to help. They're so willing to participate in there. And I was like, oh my God, has been like the best thing I have done in my career, really. So has been an experience day by day. You know, I see patients every day, you know, 10 patients a day, you know, most of
Wow,
them
that's
from
I
cancer. And then it's like amazing how every day is a fulfillment for something, right? It's like,
yeah.
you know, even if we have to cry together because dang, we have another recurrence or something is happening, but still, like, it's such a great place where I can just be part of their life, or kind of at least try to advise them or guide them into some other things to do, and how it's just about like quality life, no matter what you get hit with. So has been an amazing journey. So I totally see what you mean by missing that piece, because that's what I love the most. So
yeah. I will say I have been, because as a nurse, I never really had the interaction with the lymphedema therapist. I didn't. And it has amazed me in a year and a half how busy, you know, that you guys are, but how amazingly knowledgeable. I mean, I really just didn't have that much interaction to just, you know, dive into it the way that I have now. But I can absolutely see, just in watching, and I've had the opportunity to watch someone, just that hands-on is so helpful. It's so helpful.
Yep.
And you're so blessed. You really are.
Thank you. Thank you. Beth, that has been wonderful. I think that you really brought tons of great education and information for our audience. I really appreciate you being here with us doing this. And thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And I'm wishing everybody in your audience the very best, and wellness and happiness.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay.
You guys have a good evening.
Okay, you too. Thank you.